Hello again. Ice Spice, Y2K, debut album here. And I completely forgot this album was dropping until a couple days before. But here we are. So to give a quick synopsis, March of 2021, she starts rapping. And very soon afterwards, in 2022, she releases Munch, which becomes this crazy meteoric rise and becomes a very viral single. And following alongside that, you got a couple more singles, you got a couple of remixes, you get The Boys of Liar Part 2 of Pink Pantheress, which has almost about 900 million streams already at this point. You also have the Karma remix, which was on Taylor Swift's Midnights, and then you also have Barbie World, which just showed up on the Barbie soundtrack. Like Deluxe also gave songs, very viral songs, such as Deli and Bikini Bottom. So, very quick turnaround from 2021 to 2023, jumped to a crazy height, and a lot of attention was put onto her plate. Now, with the Like Deluxe, while these albums or EPs aren't really absolutely incredible. Honestly, they're very just one notes. They're not really all that interesting and intriguing as someone who's more of a hardcore listener of music like I am. These EPs were definitely made to create viral singles. They have the same kind of track lengths that are just about a minute to 2 minutes long, the same kind of drill kind of sound. You do get the similar kind of Ice Spice flows that she's been known for. And these EPs don't really give the best idea of what her sound was going to be in the future. Now, if you look, January 20th of 2023, you get the Like EP. Then you get the Like Deluxe, which was in July 21st of 2023. There was a couple of sparse singles throughout here, but to lead up to the debut project, I feel like it's way too long. From July, this came out, obviously, it's July 26th of 2024 as I'm recording this. But this gap is just way too long. And some artists can get away with waiting about a year to release their debut project or release a project after their debut, etc., etc. But with Ice Spice's music, it's very instant gratification. You really need to follow up these EPs and songs very quick. And you got to put them out as fast as possible so that way you keep the audience's attention. Or you have to make the debut album a big show of evolution, a big show of progression, and to give a reason as to why you waited this long. Y2K really doesn't do that. And I honestly don't think we were expecting such this crazy artistic revolution with Ice Spice in the matter of a year. But it's the way that kind of the internet is going, the way that TikTok runs, the way you have to keep yourself in the limelight as much as possible. You really needed to either release another EP in between or really keep consistent with the singles throughout. And while there has been about 4 singles with Y2K, they just haven't been hitting as much as the other singles have in the previous times. And to go into the actual review of the album, I think the first half of this album really doesn't do it any favors. It does sound very similar. It sounds very generic. It sounds like something I've heard before across both of these EPs, and a little bit more of an entertaining value. At least with songs like Bikini Bottom, the beats are so wacky and weird that they just kind of work out in a way to kind of be these quirky novelty songs. I feel like with Y2K in the first half, doesn't really do it any favors to make it all that interesting. Gunna and Travis Scott do bring some decent features, but it really doesn't save the album as a whole. Now, the album does kind of pick up towards the second half, where you do get songs. Honestly, You Think You the Shit. Fart, honestly, is not a bad song, and it does show at least a little bit of differentiation when it comes to the production, when it comes to the flow. In particular, you still get the same kind of Ice Spice flow that you're known for, but kind of in the latter portion of the song towards the end, the beat just changes just a little bit, where it kind of becomes a 4 on the floor, as I call it, because I'm a drummer. But it does have a little bit more of a pace. It has a little bit more of a momentum. And I think Ice Spice's flow changes just a little bit to make this part just a little bit more interesting and stand out a little bit more. And then it goes to kind of close off into the regular kind of sound that we're known for. That song does show a little tiny nugget of the progression. You also have Give Me the Light, which is a very more peppier, a little bit more of a higher kind of octane single. and song, which does stick out a little bit more on this album as well. I do actually enjoy BB Belt for how grim, nocturnal the song sounds, especially when it comes to the when you get kind of the phone kind of sound where it says the caller's line's been cut, where it's just dirt, dirt, dirt. I think that sample mixed in with the darker production, I think creates this very interesting sound. It does make it a little bit more, again, of a nocturnal kind of sound. And Did It First, honestly, is a nice collaboration with Central C and Ice Spice. Again, that little bit more of a faster pace does help at least the second half of this album to show just the tiniest bit of momentum. But by the time you're starting to get into a tiny bit of a rhythm with this thing, it's already too late because the album's only 23 minutes long. And that first half, again, just doesn't do any favors. I think also the biggest problem that Ice Spice has on this record is the flows itself. Now, in a single, when it's like a minute 30 to 2 minutes long, I think the flows are fine. But when you put it into a big album at about 23 to 25 minutes long, the flows can really make the experience very choppy and also lead to a lot of empty spaces. Even BB Belt, a song that I do kind of enjoy, you do have these moments where she'll start off the flow and then it's about a minute, or not a minute, it's about a 1 to 2 seconds, I can't speak, 1 to 2 seconds of just nothing and the beat just going on in the background. And again, while it's okay for a single by itself, when you have a whole album experience, it really cuts off momentum and cuts off pace. And it just is a constant back and forth tug of war of trying to get something going. But this flow is just not doing any favors. And this happens across multiple times across this album where it feels like the song is going to start into something, but then the flow kind of brings it to a screeching halt. And it's just a constant start and stop and start and stop. It's like a manual car, and you keep missing the clutch, and the car just keeps on stalling. And you try to keep starting it, and it stalls. You start it, and it stalls. That's how this album really turns out. And with that, kind of just to bring an overall close to this thing, it's an album that really doesn't have a lot to talk about when it comes to the content, obviously. There really isn't a lot to talk about. The production can sometimes be interesting, like the songs like BB Belt, Gimme the Light. Like those songs can provide some somewhat interesting moments, but this is just another Ice Spice project that really doesn't make itself discernible from the like EPs or even the couple of singles. But there's the conversation, I guess, with these kind of artists is like, do albums really matter? And my answer is that I think albums still do matter in this context. And I put it like this: singles and EPs bring the audience in as a starter. It kind of just grabs your attention, and with an EP or a single, you have your interest, you have your attentive audience, and you have a lot of them kind of having your kind of sound or your singles kind of as in playlists kind of in the background. With albums I find are the ones that really start your core and dedicated fan base. With albums, you have fans and followers that are going to keep going back to the main albums, the deep cuts, the songs that may have a little bit more experimentation or a little bit more showing of your artistic progression. I think mixtapes and albums still matter because it builds a more dedicated and solid fan base going further forward into your career. With this album, first off, again, I think it's just way too late to drop this album. I think you missed the mark. There's quite a bit of time here where you could have dropped it. Honestly, you could have dropped this album last year, like in September or October. But with this album, it doesn't really show any artistic progression. And I feel like a lot of the people that were kind of interested in around this time when the EPs were dropping are gone. Like they're gone. Like it's over. Like we're all done. And now we're left with this, and so far back that I don't think you have a solid enough fan base to continue. I don't know if Ice Spice is going to have a crazy fruitful career, maybe in like a year or two from now. I do wish the best for artists, and I think there is these tiny little nuggets of something but I don't think this album shows it enough. And overall, when it comes to the rating of this album, it's not the absolute worst of the year, but again, there's just really nothing to show for it after just these EPs here, and you just leave us empty with no singles or nothing kind of in between. I don't really put that on Ice Spice either. I think there's just really bad label mismanagement and kind of trying to figure out what to do with her sound or what to do with her as an artist when it comes to her image and her sound. I think the labels just really didn't do the best job, and I think that's just a really big thing there, is that I think if we would have managed this better, if it was me, I would have dropped the album like September or October, and then you would have a good flow of EPs leading into a debut album, and while you may get an album like this, it at least keeps the momentum. But overall, this album for me is a 3 out of 10. Again, the second half is a little bit more interesting, brings a little bit more dynamics, and does bring an up in the pace. But again, the album is 23 minutes long, and by the time you're getting to that point where it's just like there's something possibly here, it's too late. So that's my review of Y2K by Ice Spice. Let me know your comments down below if you actually listen to this thing. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for giving me the time to talk about Ice Spice. I will catch you on the next video. And there's going to be a lot of reviews coming. Porter Robinson review is going to be coming. Possibly a Mustard review. We'll have to wait and see. But thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you again very soon.